Hello everybody, welcome or welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing the mid-year book freakout tag. This tag has been around for a really long time, and it was originally created by Chami and Ellie, and I will leave their channels linked down below as well, or tagged down below. But I have noticed that a lot of people have, you know, been adding their own questions and everything, and it has really evolved over the years, which is really cool to see. I will be answering the questions that Books and Lala has set out in her description, just because like she's added a few extra and I really like the sound of them. So I'm going to jump in now. I've got the questions on my phone. Am I prepared for this tag? No. Have I been procrastinating filming this video for a few weeks now? Yes. So first question is, how is your reading going? So my reading personally this year hasn't been like as good as I would like it to be. I've read 22 books I think this year, which isn't bad by any means, and that's not to say that that's like a low amount, but I do feel and kind of wish that I had read a little bit more. But there have just been like a couple of months here and there where various things have happened, or whether I've just kind of been in a bit of a slump. Like June, oh my god, my reading for June was awful. I barely read anything at all, and like February was a really bad reading month for me as well. And so with those sorts of things combined, I've just not read as much as I would have liked to. But in saying that, I have had a overall really good reading year. I have found some new favorites, and I've reread a lot of older favorites as well, and I've been really enjoying my time rereading them, like more so than I did originally. So I would say overall, while the quantity is lower, the quality is still up there, so I'm happy with that. Next is the best book that I've read so far in 2023, and this one was really hard between two specific books, but I've decided to go with When the Moon Hatched by Sarah A. Parker. I am obsessed with this book. I read this on Kindle, I think, like before it got traditionally published. This is a high fantasy romance series. This is the first book in the series. The main character's name is Rave, and she is an assassin for the rebellion in this world, and the world is kind of like divided up into 3 different parts, and there are dragons and different types of dragons in each area of the world as well, and some of them can adjust to different climates and some can't, and so we learn more about that in here. The main character Rave ends up getting caught on an assassination job one night, and she ends up getting locked up. She meets this man who she has no idea who he is, but he sort of rescues her and takes her back to a completely different area of the world where he lives, and you know, like helps hide her, just because she is a fugitive at this point as well, and like an enemy of the kingdom. So she's hiding out there, doesn't really want to be there, like it's sort of like an enemies to lovers situation. But the writing in this book is some of the most beautiful writing I've ever read. I love this so much. This is a little bit harder to get into. Like there is a, oh my god, sorry, I just like looked at this and I'm obsessed. There is a glossary at the end of the physical version of this book, which I do highly recommend looking at as often as you need to, just because while I do think that the writing probably could have done a better job at explaining things in terms of, you know, the world building and everything in a more natural way, you do have to rely on the, well, I had to rely on the glossary a fair amount to kind of remind myself of different creatures and places. So just keep that in mind. But overall, the world building is something else completely. It is so vivid and beautiful. The writing is so gorgeous, and it's a little bit purple. I don't mind a little bit of purple prose, but I know some people don't vibe with that. But it very much gave me the same feeling as reading Laini Taylor's books for the first time. You've probably seen this cover. This is Laini Taylor's one of her books, and I'm obsessed with her. She's probably one of my favorite authors, and she got me into fantasy, and this gave me the same sorts of vibes and feelings as reading that for the first time, and it's just stuck with me completely, and I cannot wait to see where this series goes. Next is the best sequel you've read so far in 2023. Now, I wasn't sure about how to answer this because I've read a few really good sequels, and I've reread a few sequels that I've enjoyed rereading this time more than I have in the past, but I have to go with Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. Now, this is technically an interconnected standalone romance series, and this is the third book, and so I read the third book before reading the first two, but this book absolutely broke me and put me back together in every way imaginable. I tabbed it like a lot because I just couldn't help myself. Like, I just got that urge to annotate and write all over this book. And then I went back and read the first two, and I see why everyone loves this as a sequel. I really see how it came together. I still feel like I got a lot out of this personally, even as a sequel and reading it, you know, out of order, but I do see why the people who read and loved the first two books in this series love this one so much, because it does really wrap everything up really nicely. The next question is my favorite reread, and for this one, I don't want to this feels like a cop-out because I've read this book so many times, but I reread A Court of Thorns and Roses on the graphic audio book. It is so good. It feels like I'm listening to a movie. Like, there are sound effects, there are so many different voice actors, and like there's music in the background, and like just the editing and like the production and the way that this is put together was so well done. I have read this book so many times at this point, and so when my book club picked this as a book to read, I decided to go for the graphic audio, just like to mix it up a little bit, you know? If you're already like an established fan of this series and you haven't read the graphic audio yet, I really recommend listening to it. It is so well done. The voice actors are all brilliant, and just the way it's put together is so cool, and I flew through them. The graphic audio for these are on Spotify as well, which I think maybe is the reason I flew through them. Next up is the genre you've been loving or reading the most. I'm curious to see what you guys have to say about this, but for me, I feel like the obvious answer is always like fantasy or romance or fantasy romance, and I don't know how to narrow this down, because if you look at my Goodreads, it's kind of a little bit all over the place, but I think I'm probably going to have to go with romance on a technical level, because I have probably read more of that than any other genre this year. But in saying that, I have had more of a craving and like enjoyed more like fantasy romance specifically. I would say on a technicality, like numbers wise, romance easily takes it out of the park with this one, just because I have read so much more compared to other genres. But I would say, yeah, like fantasy and fantasy romance is always kind of up there as well, if I'm being completely honest, because I just can't get enough. The next question is a new release you haven't read yet but want to. Oh my god, I hate this question because there's so many, and there's so many I want to read at any given moment. I'm going to show you the ones that I physically own that I haven't read yet, that I want to read. So we have A Fate Inked in Blood by Danielle L. Jensen. I was so excited for this. I still am really excited for this. This is a fantasy romance, but this one follows Vikings, and I don't know, like I want to read it so bad, but also I feel like I have to kind of get in the mood for it again. I was really getting into stories like this, especially because my favorite game of all time is God of War, like the newer one. And so anything kind of related to that, I'm like, yeah, give it to me. And I've heard really good things about this, and I really just need to pick it up, and I haven't yet, and I don't know why. But then I also have Brat, which is by Gabrielle Smith. I haven't actually seen many people talk about this. This is a horror book, and I just saw it randomly in the bookstore. I hadn't really heard anyone talk about it. I still haven't really seen this around, if I'm being honest, but it just sounds so good. And it's kind of like told in like shorter vignettes sort of thing. It's a debut novel. It says Gabriel's skin is falling off, his dad is dead, he owes his editor a novel, his girlfriend won't answer his calls. Tasked by his horribly well-adjusted brother with clearing out the family home for sale, Gabriel's sanity quickly begins to unravel. His parents' old manuscripts appear to change each time he reads them. A bizarre home video hints at long-buried secrets, and there's a hideous man in the garden. It says Brat is a meditation on grief, art, and love that will leave you altered, breathless, and desperate for more. It just sounds so good, and I think it only came out, I want to say like April or May this year, so it's still fairly new. But like the cover did kind of draw me in a little bit. Like I want to understand where this is coming from. I don't quite get it. Maybe I'll pick this one up soon actually, because I'm getting excited all over again about this because it just sounds so cool and I haven't heard anyone talk about it. And also, like, because I'm in a bit of a reading slump at the moment, the writing is really big and they're in like shorter chapters. I think I'm gonna actually start this one really soon, like after this video, because I'm freshly hyped for this again. Anyway, the other two that I physically own that are new releases that I haven't read yet. I have a novel love story by Ashley Poston. I don't know what this is about, but I read The 7 Year Slip by the same author last year, and it was some of the most beautiful, exquisite writing I've ever read, and maybe one of the best romance books I've ever read in my life. It was so good, and the character development and everything was just wonderful, and it was like time travel. And this one I'm assuming also has a little bit of a twist because her first book I think is a ghost love story, and this one I think is about like a fictional character. I don't know, I'm not quite too sure, but I'm really excited for it anyway. And this one has only just come out, so it's not like too bad. It hasn't been sitting on my shelf for too long, but I really want to pick this one up soon as well. And then I have Reckless, which if you had have asked me last year whether I was like this hyped for this specific sequel, I would have been like, are you joking? I really didn't enjoy the first book. But then I read Powerful, which is the novella in between, and there was like just enough going on in there that really reinvigorated me to kind of pick up the sequel. I wanted to read the sequel anyway because of the ending of Powerless, but reading Powerful and the things that happened in there really got me intrigued, and I do really want to pick this one up soon because it is more fresh in my mind at the moment, so I should probably get onto that as well. Apart from that though, let's see what's on my want to read list on Goodreads, because I feel like there's a decent amount there that I haven't physically bought yet. I want to. We have Not in Love by Ali Hazelwood. This is Ali Hazelwood's next STEM romance, and I really enjoyed all of her other books. Like, I feel like if you love them or if you enjoy one, you enjoy the rest, and vice versa. I personally eat them up. I really enjoy them. Oh, there is An Education in Malice by S.T. Gibson. This is the same author who wrote A Dowry of Blood, and that is like a sapphic vampire novel, and I loved it. Again, gorgeous writing. I just want to see what her other work is like, and I did have this one on pre-order, but I did just get an email to say that it's been cancelled because they didn't have the stock, which is really cool. So I gotta actually reorder that. There's loads more that are coming out this year that I haven't read yet or that I don't have, but I feel like the ones that I've mentioned so far are probably my most anticipated for the rest of the year going forward that I know of so far. Oh, I guess that's sort of also answered the question that's coming up next, which is most anticipated release for the second half of the year. I suppose there is your sort of answer as well, but also I am really excited about Daydream by Hannah Grace. That's the third book in the Maple Hills series. I really enjoyed the first two. We'll just move on to the next one because I feel like I rambled a lot for those last two questions apparently. So next up is my biggest disappointment. Now this one, I'm gonna like double check my reading challenge and just like make sure, because I can easily think of my worst book of the year, but is it the biggest disappointment? Like, was I expecting it to be a new favorite? Probably not, but there are definitely ones that I was really excited for and really disappointed by. So I'm going to go with 2 answers for this question, and these will both be featured in a upcoming vlog as well. So first up is Iris Kelly Doesn't Date by Ashley Herring Blake. This is the 3rd and final book in the Bright Falls like romance series. They're all interconnected standalones as well. I'd been putting this one off for ages. It came out last year. I was so excited for it, but I just didn't want to read it because I didn't want it to be over, and I had such high expectations. And I read this and like I enjoyed my time reading it, but it was a massive disappointment, I think, compared to my expectations. I was really looking forward to getting to know Iris more, and we did get to know her more, and I did really like her as a character, but the writing overall in this just felt very off-putting, I feel like, compared to the first 2 books, and I just wasn't as on board for the romance as I was for the other 2. Like, this is a series of sapphic romances, and I loved the first 2 so much, like you would not even believe. This one, like, it was fine. It wasn't as good as I was hoping. But then in saying that as well, this also, I didn't have the anticipation that a lot of other people did who have read this series, but A Curse for True Love by Stephanie Garber, I was so excited to start this one because I really enjoyed the first 2. I am very late to the bandwagon with this series, but with this one here, based on how the second book finished, I won't say it because of spoilers, but the way that ends is obviously how this one starts. Like, this one goes right from the ending of the last book straight away, and that's fine, but I just feel like it dragged out for way too long, and it's got like one of the tropes that I don't really care for, or like a plot point that I don't particularly care for about a lot. And I don't necessarily hate it, but it was getting really old really quickly. Like, it was, I want to say over half the book was based on the ending of the second book, and this just felt like a filler book, but it was the final book in the series. But I think even taking out the somewhat confusing ending of this book out of the equation, it's still overall just a disappointment, and it doesn't feel as like whimsical or as fun or as like, I don't know, like magical as the first 2 books did. And that's what I loved about the first 2 books so much, and this one just didn't have that same magic. Next is the biggest surprise so far, and for this one I've already briefly mentioned it, but I'm gonna have to go with Powerful by Lauren Roberts. This one, again, like a solid 3-star book for me, but in comparison to my expectations, this was so much better than I expected. I rated the first book in this series, I think 1 star, maybe 1.5 stars. I really did not enjoy it. I almost DNF'd it. I did vlog it, and I'll leave it linked down below if you want to have a look. Layla, sorry, my cat was trying to lick a plate. Anyway, this one I picked up. I was like, okay, I'll read this just because I plan on reading the sequel anyway. I don't know, maybe it's the character, like because this one follows the main character's best friend, but this one was just so much better written. It was more entertaining. There were more questions brought up in here that I found myself intrigued by, and this one actually has me excited for the second book in the series. So I would say that this is definitely my biggest surprise. It's not like the highest rated surprise, but it is the biggest surprise for me. Next is favorite new author, and this can be a debut author or new to me, and this is a new to me author, and I'm just obsessed. I think this is the reason why I've been in a little bit of a slump for the past month, just because anything I feel like I read, especially like romance books, that I read in comparison to these just do not compare. And that is Abby Jimenez, and that is the book that I mentioned just before as well. And then I went and read books 1 and 2, and I love them so much. The relationships that are explored in here and the characters and the character development, they are just so well detailed and put together, and you get attached to every single one of them. And even like the characters that you don't like, you just can't help but want to read about. I think like this is still my favorite, and this is the first book I read from her, but Part of Your World was so beautifully written as well. And I just really love all of her writing and the things that she says about life and relationships and people, and like how people are interacting with each other and just everything. And it's so, I don't want to say philosophical, that's sort of the wrong word. It's just, it really makes you think, and the way that she puts these ideas out there through her characters that feel so real is just so well done. And I cannot wait to read her other books. I've got her other books ready and waiting, and I might honestly read them soon to try and get out of my reading slump. But I'm obsessed with Abby Jimenez. I think she is amazing. Next up is newest favorite character. This one is really hard. I don't know. I honestly want to say Emma from Just for the Summer again, and I know this is the 3rd time I'm bringing up this book, but I just found myself relating to Emma in so many different ways. Like I said, like this book literally destroyed me and then put me back together. And Emma, like I would just want to be friends with her. Like she's just such like a beautiful, like kind character and like soul to read about. And I'm gonna actually cry just thinking about I feel ridiculous, but like I think of Emma and like the things that she has been through and her outlook on life and everything, and it just, I mean, it's literally bringing tears to my eyes right now. So anyway, if I keep on talking about this book in too much detail, and I know I've given you no detail anyway, but I can feel myself probably gonna cry over this book again. So I'm just gonna put that down for now. I'm gonna put it here for easy access, just in case it answers any other questions to come up. But next up is a book that made you cry. Oh my god. Is this my favorite book of the year? I think it might be, honestly. I think just to describe how much this book made me cry, and if you don't want to go and watch that vlog, I'm just gonna insert a little clip here of a little montage of me sobbing for however many seconds that is. So enjoy that. I can't handle this book. I don't know why I'm finding this like so emotional. All right, we're back. So next question is a book that made you happy. And for the sake of not using this book for like the 4th or 5th time in this same video, I'm going to go with a non-fiction, and that is Dear Dolly by Dolly Alderton. And I just really adore Dolly's writing, and I listened to this one on audio, I think, and I wasn't expecting to love this as much as I did, because it's a collection of her columns kind of just like put together and collated in this book. And the way it's put together, I wasn't too sure how I would feel about it, because obviously it's, you know, non-fiction. It's kind of self-helpy, which isn't really my vibe ever anyway. But there's just something about Dolly Alderton's writing. It just feels like you're like talking to a best friend, like over tea or something like that. When I read Everything I Know About Love by the same author, I really read it at the right time for me and at the right age. And I think reading this one as well, I read it at the perfect time. And there were just so many things in here that just like made me feel validated or more comfortable about it. It really came at the right time, I think, for me. And I really enjoyed my time reading this. So I definitely recommend, especially if you liked Everything I Know About Love. Next is the most beautiful book you've bought so far this year or have received. This one easiest answer ever, and it's right here on display. When the Moon Hatched. This is the Locked Library edition, and I'm so glad I managed to get this. I kind of like got in a little bit early on the subscription when I figured out what the book was going to be, and it's like cancelled now because I don't want to continue it. I just wanted this book, but it's just beautiful. So this is the Waterstones edition, and it's gorgeous as well, but like this one is just something else. And this one and the normal cover has like, you know, the blue detailed edges, and this one is all purple, and then it's got the dragon on the side and the purple sprayed edges. It's got the inside pages there, which is just absolutely gorgeous, and then the actual like naked hardcover. Oh my god, it's so pretty, and it's like holographic as well. You can't really see it in the camera, but it is just so gorgeous. I'm so happy I have this edition specifically. It is so beautiful. Like, this edition is beautiful as well, but this one is just something really special, and I'm so glad I have it. The next question is, what books do you need to read by the end of the year? And without saying, you know, I want to read all of them, because that's not possible, I'm gonna try and narrow it down. Like I said before, I think Brat is pretty high up on my TBR list at the moment. I would also really love to get to Reckless, just so I can kind of tick that off of my series that I'm in the middle of, and I can mark it as something that I am caught up with at the very least. I would also really love to finish Priory of the Orange Tree before the end of the year as well, because this one was on my June TBR, and I did start it. I do want to make that clear. I did start it and I'm a few chapters in, but again, because of my reading slump, I just wasn't really reading much of anything. But this one is so big, and now that I've started it and like gotten used to like the feel of the writing, I do think I'm gonna be able to read this and get through it. But I might take my time with this, because otherwise if I try and read this like all at once before picking up anything else, I feel like this might be a detriment to my reading, but we'll see. Then I have A Little Devil in America in Praise of Black Performance by Hanif Abdurraqib, and this one is a non-fiction. I remember seeing this on Books and Lala's channel, I think last year or the year before as well, and I've been so intrigued by it, and I finally have a copy now. It says that this is a stirring meditation on black performance in the modern age, in which culture, history and his own lived experience collide. It explores black cultures, performances, communities, in addition to the author's own experiences as well, and I've just heard it's really good. And then finally, the book that I really need to read and have been just putting off in every TBR month is Daisy Hates by Jessa Hastings, and this one is the second book in the Magnolia Parks universe. And I did really enjoy the first book, but I'm curious to see if I like Daisy Hates more than Magnolia Parks. I feel like so many people are one or the other, and I really want to see how I feel about this book before deciding to get the rest in these covers specifically. Just because, like, I liked the first book. It was very toxic. It's like Gossip Girl in London, and they're all awful people doing awful things. It's not like the best time, but I did really enjoy reading about those characters, and we got a little snippet of Daisy, and I want to know more about her and like that side of the family, and I keep on putting this one off, and I don't know why. So I'm gonna try and read this before the end of the year. And then finally, and I think this is another Lala question, it says favorite book community members. I have so many that I love to watch, and this is really hard to narrow down. I want to try and not mention the ones, like the people that I mention a lot, like Books and Lala, because I watch her a lot, and like Rachel Catherine and stuff. Oh, Chandler, I've been loving Chandler Ainsley's videos lately. I just think her vlogs are so cozy, and I love watching like her normal vlog channel as well as her book channel, and just like watching her journey about like fertility and trying to have a baby and all of the stuff that's going on like outside of books. I've been really enjoying her videos, or maybe enjoying is the wrong word, but I've been watching a lot of them and I really appreciate like her openness in everything as well. Oh, I have to say Witty Novels, because she's like a classic, and I just, again, I love her vlogs so much. They're so chill and cozy, and the way she talks about books as well just really is so well articulated, but also she's so silly goofy at the same time, and I love it. And then I would say Raven-Haired Reader is one of my new favorites that I only just discovered this year. She has introduced me to so many new fantasy romance books as well that I just like, I either want to read or that I have read and have loved, and I just really enjoy her content. I will leave those creators down below as well. If you have a booktube channel or anything, please let me know down in the comments below as well, because that way I can try and check out some newer creators or smaller creators or whatever, and I'm always on the lookout for some new favorite booktubers. But that wraps up this video. Let me know down in the comments below if you've got any of the answers to these questions. Let me know how your reading is going. I'd love to hear it. And this is like one of my favorite times of year because of this tag, and I just get to see like everybody's different like reading opinions and how things are going for them, and I get lots of like new recommendations at this time of year as well, so I'm really excited about it. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a fantastic day or night wherever you are, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.